If you're a Christian entrepreneur who wants to build kingdom businesses to be able to establish generational wealth in your family, this is the video for you. Today, we're going to be embarking on a series where we're going to talk about how King Solomon established cash flow secrets using biblical principles. This is going to be a 4-part video, and so go ahead and enjoy part 2 as we unpack all the beautiful things that God has in store for you, and stick around to the end of the video because there's an amazing discount available to you at the end. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for joining the call. I appreciate you getting a chance to join the webinar here. Just to let you know, as you chat today, I have multiple screens here, so I'll try to spend most of my time talking into the camera. But if you chat, feel free to go ahead and put information or questions in the chat, but I do have to look below. So it's not like I'm ignoring anyone. I just want to kind of just go through logistics. As we go throughout the webinar, feel free to put comments into the chat as well as questions. There will be a time for a Q&A later. And once we get started, this is currently recording. And so what we'll do is we'll provide a recording for everyone. If you signed up through the webinar, we'll have your email, and feel free to, have any questions afterwards. Feel free to reach out to me because I sent out an email to those who registered in advance of the event, and we'll go ahead and answer any questions after the fact. So excited for everyone to be here. So let's go ahead and get started. So today's topic is going to be about King Solomon's cash flow secrets. And one of the key things that I want to explain as we go forward is there's going to be a lot of material that we're going to be covering today. I'm actually going to be covering almost 10 chapters in First Kings. So we're going to cover a lot of ground here. So as we take notes, I will also share the presentation with everyone. So if you do take notes, feel free to take notes in addition to what you're seeing on a screen, because this will also be available to you offline. So that way you can get the most out of this presentation. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and get a little background about myself. I'm a 7-time serial entrepreneur, currently CEO of both John Humanics Ministries and SpiritWorks AI. If you've seen any of my social media content, you'll know that I'm also a mega influencer with over 1 million followers and nearly 100 million views. The most amazing stat of all is we have over 20,000 confirmed salvations throughout our social media ministry. It's an amazing work. We really started about 3 years ago, and God has blessed us heavily. There's a key point that I want to make later in this presentation, as well as this teaching, is that there is an aspect of the spirit of diligence as well as a spirit of excellence. God is going to allow you to be successful in your kingdom walk through your business, but there's an element of diligence that's required. And I will tell you, if you go back and look at my social media journey, you can probably laugh at the videos that I made back in 2022, but what we saw was as we got better and better, the Lord blessed it. But we actually didn't see real growth on social media for almost 2 years. So it is an aspect as you walk into your kingdom walk. It's key to understand that things do take time as a part of the things that you're going to accomplish, and just be patient with yourself as you go forward. Key. And so let's go ahead and talk about Solomon's later life. So now what you have is you've established this pattern of wisdom, sacrifice, constantly being in a place of posture of heart and mind. And now what happens is that Solomon realized, okay, before his great success occurred, what you start to see is he starts to set alliances, and he starts to build a national wealth system for the Jewish nation. And this is important. You start to see, now it does talk about this in chapter 3 about the marriage to Pharaoh's daughter, but then he starts marrying other princesses. And I know Solomon is legendary for his 700 wives and 300 concubines. And I'm not saying that's something anyone should do in today's society. But what it does show is that whenever you want to be able to establish yourself even further and create alliances, and especially with Solomon, he's trying to establish Israel as a nation with trade and international ties. It's key to understand is that you have to be able to move things forward in a proper way. This is important in your business. As you walk things out, you might be at a stage where you're like, I need to be able to bring on someone to help me with my sales. Maybe you need to bring someone on to help with your operations. Business is not a solopreneur thing. You may start that way, but that you will never finish that way, because you may be just in a place where you're creating and establishing your standard operating procedures, learning the things you do, and then bringing someone on. And there's so many different ways to do this, whether it's part-time or even a volunteer. So even if you're in a situation where money isn't a big value, you can understand at this moment God's going to provide people. And then what you start to see is that Solomon split Israel into 12 districts. This is key because what he was doing was dividing and conquering the work. No different than when you have your own mastermind, your own inner circle, people that are going to work for you. You're going to have people that are going to focus on sales. You're going to have people focused on finance, human resources, hiring and firing, policies. You're going to have people dealing with technology and operations. So it's important. While he was focusing on taxation and provision, what he was doing was establishing his cash flow across Israel and making it, allowed it to be very successful. Now, this is the next one that I want you to highlight in your notes, because we talked about the sacrifices that led before wisdom. But what you want to understand is that in today's day and age with social media, and I talked about this earlier, you really need to establish yourself through your work. And what Solomon did, and this is greatly overlooked over and over again throughout all of history, is that he spoke 3,000 proverbs and he wrote over 1,000 songs. So his influence started through his renown of his wisdom. Now, I want to unpack this for a couple minutes and park it here for a moment, because it's extremely important to understand why this matters and why it matters today. In Solomon's time, there was no social media. In fact, social media was the Proverbs. You'll see in ancient times, the pharaohs of Egypt would write these proverbs to allow to establish their influence and their renown. So very similar to what you see today on Instagram Reels or TikTok or on YouTube. What you see here is these proverbs established himself because he was operating with the Holy Spirit. And so now what you see is when you read, and you can go ahead and look this up online, any of the ancient Pharaoh proverbs, you'll see that they have a lot of really cool sayings, and you'll see them like, that makes sense. But there'll be ones that be like, that doesn't make sense. And in fact, it's not even biblical. But Solomon's proverbs were legendary. So what happened was that he ended up getting more social media followers, at least in that time, through his proverbs than anything else. So his influence and his renown allowed him to generate the ability of basically being trusted to have those alliances. So when we started our social media ministry at John Humanic Ministries, we had almost 3,000 videos before we started really growing. And today we're almost north of 5,000. And so even over 3 years, you have to be diligent in the work that you're doing, because excellence comes through repetition. You can spend all the time you want on a particular topic, but until you just do it over and over again, you're never going to be excellent. It's no difference than dribbling a basketball or a soccer ball, or trying to hit a pitch, or blocking and tackling in football. I'll even give you an example that I once heard, that there was a professor that was doing like a class with clay. And what she decided to do was split the class in two and said, here's how I'm going to grade this half of the class. This half of the class, I'm going to grade. All you have to do is create one piece of just vase out there. And that's it. It doesn't matter how beautiful it is. Just do the best to make it as perfect as possible. You can spend the entire semester making it. And that's what that half of the class did. And then the other half of the class was judged on pure weight. As many vases as they could possibly make. It didn't matter how ugly they were. And it didn't matter how disgusting it was, or how flat or big, wide or short. It didn't matter. But what happened is at the end of the class, those that made more vases ultimately had artwork that was just astonishingly beautiful. And so the ones that tried to make it perfect and only had to deliver one didn't look as good. And so the moral of that story is practice does make perfect. So it's really understanding that when Solomon was establishing himself, what he was doing was he was working through his wisdom and his advice in advance. And so when he actually ended up building those alliances and then establishing himself further, he was able to speak from a higher level of wisdom that then resonated with leaders, because they're like, wow, I've never heard wisdom like that before. I've never heard things like that. And that set him apart. And then also finally, what he did was then he started organizing the labor. And then this is the key part. This is the thing that a lot of Christians miss. And I want to make sure we catch it at this point. So we've talked a lot about wisdom and alliances, but Solomon's vision for Israel was grand. Like that's reality. No different than you see in Rome with their grand construction projects. What he was doing was painting a vision of scale that they had never seen before. Remember, at this time, this was a nation of farmers. They had just worked their way and defeated a lot of the enemies in the last century. They were finally coming into an era of peace that took them almost 400 years to achieve. And so, what you're seeing here is now they're building a nation. They're building the temple and all the different things. So, what he had to do is establish all the things in order to make it work. And so, your vision, as you're starting to build it out, has to be that grand. The Lord is not going to put a vision of like a small thing on your heart. It's always going to be something so big that you're going to need other people, alliances, and other groups to help you move forward. But the bigger the vision, the grander the scale, which will allow people to attach themselves to something amazing and move forward. And that was critical for his long term success because he set the stage early to be able to move for everyone. This is an opportunity for people to become something bigger than themselves. As you know, I'm launching an inner circle, and one of the key things is we're going to have monthly teachings like this, as well as direct access to me to help develop your kingdom business. And I think it's really important to understand is that I'm bringing to bear my personal mentorship network. I have folks that are mentor me that run companies in the tens, the hundreds, and even the billions to the place. And it's key because as we talked about, building alliances and partnerships are critical. And to be able to work with people that have been there in an amazing way is key because they've walked it out in advance. And that's kind of what we're going to be doing in the inner circle is working with people who've gone before us in an amazing way to allow us to be able to help us go through the process. And then if you're familiar with spiritual concepts, your basement becomes their penthouse. So what happens is someone who has established themselves in the market for a long time, you're building your basement on top of their penthouse. And so all the lessons learned and all the things that they've done allow you to be propelled forward in an amazing way. And so, oh, we do have a question here. Yeah, so Alicia, so the biggest way to help with the start of a company is unpaid resources. What you can do is there are a lot of folks. I would reach out to local colleges and get students there in college. I would actually, reach out to people that maybe in your networks and just tell them your vision and say, look, I can't pay you at this time, but I really need some help in this area or willing to, put together a resume builder and do something for me so they can put that on their resume and showcase it. A lot of times people who are trying to establish themselves as website or go to market people or even salespeople, they'll moonlight and do that work for you and understand that, you're going to get what you pay for in many cases. So the quality may not be up to par, but once you work through that process, you'll be able to find some people. And what you'll see is if you find some go-getters, the carrot that you can ultimately dangle is that, as income increases, that you'll be able to start to pay them and eventually turn them into full-time employees. So there's a lot of different things that I would look at, like local universities, local schools, people within your network, and just pitch the vision because people attach themselves to the vision. And when they attach themselves to your vision, that's what gets them excited to help you. And as I grew SpiritWorks, we had a lot of people that volunteered their time to really grow the business before we could pay them. And it allowed us to really get a big base of talent and move projects forward at scale without actually doing it. And so really working your network, working other people's networks, talking to other business owners and people around, you'll find that there's a bunch of people around there. And if you don't, then, reach out to me. We can talk about it. There's a lot of additional help that I have and access to and things like that. So let me go ahead and extend this invitation. So the one thing that I want to include today is everyone knows that I'm launching the Inner Circle. We have over 10 people already signed up collectively in Inner Circle. We've got almost a half a dozen of mentors that are coming in. And so today is the last day that we're offering this major discount to come into the inner circle. Now, what I want to talk about today is very important to understand is that while you may look at this investment and say, this is a lot of money, the wealthy don't look at this. They look at it from the perspective of what's the value that's coming out of it. One sale that comes out of anything that comes out of the inner circle pays for the inner circle. This is a one-time charge. It's an incredible value and allows you to have access to a group of people that are going to be relentlessly pursuing the kingdom of God. It's going to allow your business to sell into the inner circle. And we'll talk about the next step here in a moment, and allow you to sell into the greater community in the kingdom that we're building here. The inner circle is just the tip of the spear. We're trying to establish ourselves as great kingdom entrepreneurs. So today, if you scan that barcode or go to that URL, you can put in that discount code and get a discount to join the inner circle today. This is the last day that the inner circle will be at the price that it's at. Tomorrow it goes to the full price, and we're moving forward because we're pretty close to filling it. So we really don't have to discount it anymore. And so it's really important to understand that this is the moment for you. This is your moment to be able to take the next step and move forward. I invested over $5,000 in a program that transformed my life. I went out and did things that I wasn't supposed to do. I went out and borrowed money, and not encouraging you to do that. But what it did do is it transformed everything that I did, because what it did is it allowed me to establish myself in a way that cannot be taken away. And now I've got a massive social media influence, millions of followers. And when I go into rooms and I talk about that, it shocks people. And it really says, wow, in order to be that successful, you had to do something exceptionally well. And so you're going to get that kind of advice. You're going to get that kind of leadership in this inner circle. If you're at a place in your life where you just don't understand the difference between an LLC and an LP and an Inc., 501c3, this is the group for you. This is the group that's going to help you establish yourself and allow you to accelerate the things you have to do. The thing that I will talk about the inner circle is when you're building a business, you have around 4,000 to 5,000 steps that you have to do. Unless you're going to buy a business, you're really going to spend a lot of time doing a ton of things, and you ultimately will have to divide and conquer that work. But the faster you get through those 5,000 steps, and the faster you do it with excellence, will allow you to establish that vision on earth. And so when you join a group like this, you are streamlining that. If you already have a business that's established, but you're stuck and you're like, hey, I'm already doing really well, but I want to go to the next level, the mentorship network is going to be key, because you're going to be talking to people that literally ran $9 billion organizations who are publicly known entities as the CEO. That you're just not going to get a chance to get to talk to people at that scale. People that have run 100 and $200 million organizations built totally from scratch. Like those things, those people generally don't give out their advice for free, much less do that at scale. And so you're going to have access to that. And you can't put a price on that. And that's key. Not to mention all the things that I'm going to do to bring you closer to Jesus, because this walk isn't about John Humanic and it isn't about you. It's about bringing you closer to Jesus and allowing the Holy Spirit to minister to you. So as classes launch this August, we're going to be talking about some very powerful concepts, but at the end of the day, the thing that made Solomon great was the Holy Spirit. Let's just be fair. And his willingness to have a discerning heart. Remember, he had the mindset, the emotions, and the will that were aligned. And that's going to be a key topic that we'll be talking about continually in this class. And so I want to give a moment for people to go ahead and join the inner circle. This is your opportunity to become a part of something so much bigger than what you are today. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to put it in the chat. Awesome. Okay. And so let me go ahead and talk about the mastermind. And so this is super exciting. So today I'm announcing the mastermind level is officially launched. We're far enough along in the inner circle to kind of move it forward, and the mastermind level is next level. If you aren't sure that you're ready for the inner circle, the mastermind level is probably going to be for you. If you are in a position where you're currently working for someone, or you've just started your business, or you're looking to start your business, what the mastermind will get you is access to the Zoom calls and a lot of the teachings that we'll have. You'll get access to the inner circle, so that you will be able to work with them and to be able to help your business grow. This is critical because that we're discounting it heavily to start this. And it's really important to understand is that in all of the investments, as the inner circle continues to expand, the mastermind level is going to have priority access to the inner circle. And when you look at the amount of money that you spend on college and tuition and classes and things like that, this is ultimately a drop in a bucket to have access to the same group of people, to be able to move forward. But it's done in a way where you can grow up and do it at your own pace. There isn't the struggle of trying to generate and hit payroll or hit some sales targets. The mastermind level is really designed for those who are almost ready, almost serious to take that next leap. But what they want to do is learn from people that have gone before them, done it in a way. So go ahead. For those people, we've got an exclusive 50% discount for the mastermind. It's going to last today. This is it. And so it's really important that if God is tugging on your heart to do something for the kingdom of God, this is your moment to be able to move it forward, because this mastermind level is going to be next level. It's going to be key, and it's going to be very, very powerful. It's going to set the stage for the rest of your life. If I had the opportunity, decades ago to be able to join a business group that taught me biblical principles, I mean, I would have leapt at the chance to do it. Like, this is just something that doesn't come along that often. A lot of entrepreneurs don't have inner circles, generally don't build masterminds. They do exist, but the reality is that it just does not come very often. And so this is a moment where you can kind of take that next step. If the inner circle is too serious for you, then the mastermind is really key. And I want to encourage you today to go ahead and join right now. This is be incredible. So the question in the chat was, the big difference between the inner circle and the mastermind is designed around people to be able to get their journey started. So really what you're looking at is a person who either is about to start their business or has started their business, or wants to start their business in 12 months. So the level of access to myself and others are different, because the goal is to get access to the real-time content, the teachings. We're going to have content available on our website and a bunch of other areas. And so really what we're going to do is provide a ton of information for you to basically help your journey along. And we know anything that you put yourself into, the spirit of excellence will come. And so what you have to steward yourself, but the mastermind is really designed to be a bridge between basically self-teaching and being completely guided, which the inner circle will be. And the nuance is the inner circle is meant for people that are very, very serious for their walk. These are people that are going to go in, they're all in, they're basically going in with Jehovah Jireh, and they're going to understand their walk, where the mastermind is really like, I'm serious, but I want to be able to establish myself first. And so the offering is less, because you do get access to less things, such as myself, but the difference is that you still get all the core pieces to move you forward in acceleration, so that if you're ready to hop into the inner circle and there's a slot ready, you can do that and really accelerate that moving forward. So hopefully that helps. Awesome. Awesome. And so the last thing that I want to encourage people today is donate to the vision. So John Humanic Ministries is the ministry that runs the Inner Circle. This is a ministry. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So our vision is to be able to reach the gospel to everyone before the rapture. We want Christians to dominate life by walking with life hand in hand with Jesus Christ. It's key, and that's a part of it. So I want to encourage you today that our business here is the ministry. That's the key. We can't discern between the two. And so we do work through donations. All of the donations that come into John Humanic Ministries are go right back into the ministry to move it forward. So I encourage you today. There's different ways that you can donate. You can Zelle, you can donate directly. If you have any questions about donating, if you want to donate another way, such as Venmo and other ones, let me know. Feel free to drop me an email or drop me a text. But I want to encourage everyone today to do something for the ministry to help move it forward. We have a couple other things we want to get for the studio and kind of move it forward, but we want to be able to move the inner circle. So, opportunity to donate and allow us to run an ad campaign. Believe it or not, $5 goes a long way with ads. I don't want to discount any donation from anyone at any given time. So I encourage you today to take the moment to donate to this vision, because when you're sowing seeds in a vision of this scale, you get accredited for the success of that ministry. That's actually biblical. It talks about that. Paul talks about that. So when you're sowing into a ministry that's on fire, it's really, really key. And so I want to encourage everyone today to kind of move forward and be a part of something even bigger. Yes. So, let's see here. Hold on, let me skip up. So Tara, yes. So when you join the mastermind or inner circle, your spouse automatically joins for free. So it doesn't cost extra to bring them involved. So if you're tag teaming work, that's something that's automatically there and a part of that process. Yeah. So yes. So the mastermind link is different. You'll see at the end of the URL, it's inner circle for the inner circle and mastermind at the end. And so the key part of this walk is also as a part of it is a part of the documentation. And if additional information is needed, please let me know. One of the things that we want to do is that we are going to build a male cohort and a female cohort as a part of this process. They'll still be unified and a part of the work, but we are bringing in female mentors that are exceptional leaders, just exceptional business women. We have exceptional men. And so there are different things that go through this. So as we continue to build the inner circle and the mastermind, we understand that the needs are going to be different. There's going to be different focuses. Ephesians 5's husband, Proverbs 31 wife. There are differences. And so we do want to get the spouses involved as much as possible to help through this. It helps from a financial perspective. It helps from a work. And usually your spouse is one of the first people that help you with your ministry or business. And it does allow that, which you'll probably see most of the time, is one spouse is a visionary, one spouse is that integrator or that hands-on person. And so that actually helps move things forward. There's a lot of biblical concepts that I didn't cover as a part of this teaching, but as you start to see that God gives you everything that you need, it's kind of like the widow that had the oil in the jars, and she had her husband passed away and the debtors were coming to take away her sons. And she asked the prophet Elisha what to do. And then he says, "What do you have in your house?" And then she goes and she says, "I have oil," and that's it. And then what he says is, "Go borrow as many jars as you can, shut the door, fill them up, and sell them." And what happened was that she had enough for be able to pay off all her debts, and she kept the rest for herself. And so you'll be surprised when you start to walk this journey out with God that he's already giving you everything that you need to get everything started. And a lot of times the spouse is key. So I want to encourage that as a part of the group. And if anyone else has any other questions, please put them in the chat. But I do want to thank everyone for coming today. This was an awesome teaching. I hope you got a ton of information and a lot of value out of it. And I encourage you to follow myself on YouTube for John Humanic Ministries. We've put out a ton of content there, a lot of financial content, a lot of great videos. All of it's free. And so feel free to go out there and consume it. You'll see the standard that we're operating at, that spirit of excellence, and it will change your life. God bless.